Welcome to the Outpouring Worship Center podcast. This week we're diving into a message that felt less like a sermon and more like a direct word from God to this house. Pastor Tim brought a message called Restore the House. And honestly, if you were in the room Sunday, you felt it.
I'll tell you, Jordan, I don't take a Sunday lightly, but there are some Sundays where you walk in and you just know something different is happening. I just come off my doctoral commencement on Wednesday, 88 pastors and ministry leaders all receiving degrees, and this one professor got up and just set the room on fire. She wasn't holding anything back. She was preaching, and people were on their feet. And I remember sitting there thinking, that's what God deserves. That's the kind of fire that should be in every house of God. I came into Sunday carrying that fresh in my spirit, and I really felt the Lord say very clearly, tell them to restore the house, not as a suggestion, as an assignment.
I love that context because the word you used, Sunday, was really specific. You called it a divine assignment, not just another service. When you talk about restoring the house, what are you actually talking about? Because I think some people might hear that and think you mean fixing the building or updating the lobby.
Yeah, and I want to be really clear because I addressed that Sunday. This is not a Ravenna thing. It's not an Outpouring worship center real estate project thing. It's a God thing. Yes, the physical space matters, and we'll get to that. But when God says restore the house, He's talking about the dwelling place of God, the people of God, the order of God, the excellence of God, and the mission of God. All of that is wrapped up in the word house. I used Haggai 1:8 as my anchor verse. God says, go up to the hills, bring wood, build the house, that I might take pleasure in it and be glorified. The emphasis there is on that last phrase, that God may be glorified. So when we talk about restoring the house, we're asking a fundamental question. Does the way we do things here actually reflect that God is worth our very best? That's the real question.
And that word glorified is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that verse. But here's where I want to push a little bit. What does moving in excellence actually look like day to day? Because I think for a lot of people, excellence sounds like a big kind of intimidating word, like it feels unattainable or like you need a huge budget or a production team.
You know, I appreciate you pushing on that because I don't want excellence to become a word that paralyzes people. I said it Sunday, excellence is not pride and excellence is not performance. Excellence is doing what God said the way God said to do it. That's it. So on a practical level, it might mean showing up on time to serve. It might mean making sure the space is clean and welcoming when people walk in, because we want them to feel that somebody genuinely cares about this house. It might mean that when you're on a worship team, you practice before Sunday because God deserves preparation, not just improvisation. I'll be honest with you, I think we've gone through a season where we've accepted good when God was calling us to best. And there's a difference. Good is fine, good gets by, but best says, I'm bringing everything I have to the table because the one I'm doing this for is worth all of it.
That distinction between good and best, you came back to that more than once Sunday. And I think it connects to something else you talked about, which was this idea of honoring the past without living in the past. That's a tension a lot of churches face, right? You want to respect what God has done through the people who came before, but you also can't be frozen there.
That tension is real, and I felt it important to name it honestly on Sunday. There have been decades of prayer poured into Outpouring, worship center, sacrifice, preaching, counsel, perseverance, and I don't want anyone to hear the word restore and think we're throwing any of that away. We're not. We honor the faithful foundation. But here's what I also know. And the Bible in Ecclesiastes says there is a season for everything. And I genuinely believe this house has stepped into a new season. And then Jesus in the Gospels makes it plain. New wine requires fresh wineskins. You cannot pour fresh purpose into people who are unwilling to stretch. So honoring the past means we receive the blessings and the lessons and the prayers of everyone who built before us, but we don't use their ceiling as our floor. We take what they built and we go further with it, because that's what every generation is called to do.
I want to stay on this for a second because you mentioned that we may have fallen back over the last few years, and I think there are people listening right now who can relate to that personally. Seasons in their own life where they feel like they've lost ground spiritually. What do you say to someone who's sitting with that feeling of, I know I used to be further along than this?
I say welcome to the human race, first of all, because I think every one of us has had that moment where we look at where we are and compare it to where we were, and we feel the gap. And I want to be pastorally honest. I didn't get up Sunday to shame anyone or make the church feel bad about where we are. The point was never condemnation. The point was this: God is not standing at a distance disappointed. He's standing at the door ready to help us go to a new level we've never been to before. The shift I was declaring on Sunday is not that we've suddenly arrived. It's that the wind has shifted and the atmosphere is different. So if you're someone sitting at home right now feeling like you've lost ground spiritually, I want you to hear this. God is not calling you back to where you were. He's calling you forward to where you've never been. That's actually better news than just getting restored to your previous state.
That's really good. Going forward, not just back. Now, there was a moment in the sermon where you talked about Noah, and I loved it because, you'd literally just been to a Noah's Ark themed attraction with Donna. So you had this fresh experience. But the point you made from Hebrews 11 about Noah, can you unpack that a little more? Because I think that's where the rubber meets the road for a lot of people.
So yeah, Don and I were looking at t-shirts at the Ark Encounter, and I found one that said no project is too big for God, and that's kind of a Noah reference, obviously. But the real sermon moment was when I got to Hebrews 11:7. By faith Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. And then I asked the congregation how long it took Noah to build the ark. I was half expecting Donna to jump in since we'd just been there. And the answer, somewhere in the range of 75 years, depending on how you interpret it. It did not happen in a weekend work camp. Noah did not see the rain before he started building. He had faith for what was not yet visible. And then Genesis 6:22 says Noah did everything just as God commanded him. That's the obedience piece. That's what excellence really looks like when you strip all the performance away. It's just doing what God said the way God said to do it, even when the rain hasn't shown up yet. That's the kind of faith this house needs right now.
And I think that's where it gets really personal, right? Because it's one thing to get excited in a Sunday service and say, yes, God, I'm all in. It's another thing on a Tuesday when nothing looks different, yet to keep building.
Exactly. And I'll be transparent. I've been in ministry long enough to know that the Tuesday after a powerful Sunday is when the enemy works the hardest. You leave a service like that one, the atmosphere was electric. People were on their feet worshiping. There was something real happening in the room. And then Tuesday comes and the bill is due, or the relationship is strained, or the thing you prayed about still hasn't moved. That's the wineskin moment. That's when God is asking, are you willing to stretch even when it hurts? Because he did not promise it would be easy. He promised he would be with us. And there's a difference between those two things. I told the church, if it was easy, we could do it on our own. The fact that it's hard is actually proof that we need him, and needing him is not weakness. Needing him is the whole point.
I want to come back to something because I think there's a tension worth exploring here. You talked about the physical space, about excellence in the building, in the systems, and then you also talked about not wanting people to come just to be a number or a financial structure. How do you hold both of those things? Like, how do you pursue excellence in the house without it becoming about optics or impressions?
That's a really important question, and I'm glad you're asking it because I think those two things can feel like they're in conflict, but they're actually not. Here's the way I think about it. If I invite someone to my home, I clean the house not because I want them to be impressed by my decorating, but because I want them to know they matter to me. I put in the effort because the person coming deserves my care, and that's exactly what we're doing when we pursue excellence in the house of God. We're not doing it to look good on social media. We're doing it because God's presence deserves that level of honor, and because the people walking through those doors for the first time deserve to feel that they walked into a place where somebody really cares. Where somebody...
That's such a good reframe. The excellence is the welcome.
That's exactly it. The excellence is the welcome. And I've said it before, the best way to reach people is not a slick marketing campaign, although there's nothing wrong with that. It's for people to walk into this house and say, these people are genuinely giving God their best. And God is genuinely showing up here. When that's what people experience, they come back, they bring their friends. That's how the kingdom grows, not through hype, but through the tangible presence of God in a house that's been prepared to receive him.
Okay, so I want to land the plane practically here, because I know people are going to walk away from listening to this and think, okay, I believe this, but what do I actually do differently this week? What's the one thing you'd tell somebody coming out of that Sunday message to put into practice before next Sunday?
I'll give you the verse I anchored on, Haggai 1:7. Consider your ways. Before you can restore anything, you have to be honest about what's in front of you. So this week, I'd ask people to do a personal audit, not a shame spiral, not picking themselves apart, just an honest look. Where in my life have I been settling for good when God is asking for best? Maybe it's your prayer life and you've been phoning it in. Maybe it's how you serve in the church and you've been coasting. Maybe it's a relationship you've been letting slide because it takes effort to restore. Just sit with God this week and ask him to show you one area where he's calling you to go up to the hills and bring wood. You don't have to fix everything at once. Noah didn't build the ark in a day, but he did pick up his tools and get started. That's what God is asking us to do. Just get started.
I love that. Consider your ways, not as condemnation, but as an invitation.
Exactly. And here's the thing. God doesn't show us the gap to embarrass us. He shows us the gap so that he can fill it. Psalm 127 says, unless the Lord builds the house, the labor is in vain. He's not asking you to do this alone. He's asking you to partner with him. And when you do that, the blessings that come, and some of them you'll wait 10, 15, even 30 years for. And I said that Sunday because it's true. Those blessings are worth every bit of the stretch and the obedience it takes to get there. So this week, take one honest look, bring it to God, and say, Lord, I'm picking up my tools.
That's a word right there.
I want to close by just speaking directly to anyone who walked into that service Sunday or is listening to this right now, wondering if this is really for them, if this house is really a place where they belong. The answer is yes. Every seat in that sanctuary being filled is not about numbers for us. It's because every person who walks through those doors is someone God wants to change the way he's changed us. We are in a new season at Outpouring Worship Center, fresh outpouring. Every generation. That's not just a tagline, that's a declaration of what we believe God wants to do here in Ravenna. Come be a part of it. We'd love to see you this Sunday, 10:30 in the morning. Come stretch with us. Come build with us. Come expect something you haven't seen before.
Thank you so much for being here with us today and for unpacking this message. If this conversation stirred something in you, I want to encourage you to head over to owc.today. You can find more information about the church, the services, and everything God is doing at Outpouring Worship Center. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. in Ravenna, Michigan. We'll see you there. Fresh Outpouring, every generation.